Have you ever wished you could brush things off effortlessly? Imagine being someone who faces criticism with calm, rejection with indifference, loss without grief, and betrayal without bitterness. Ever fantasize about a day when that quiet ache, that gnawing feeling inside finally goes away? Even when you pretend to be fine on the outside, perhaps you are tired of trying to please everyone, of maintaining an image that requires constant strength, when in reality all you wanted was to rest just for a moment from the pressure of being untouchable. But let me tell you something maybe nobody else has dared to. As long as you try to avoid pain, it will continue to control you. As long as you try to numb yourself, to protect yourself, to hide, you will remain a hostage to everything that happens around you, to the words that hurt you, to the actions that disappoint you, to the silences that wound you inside. And this is not weakness. This is the reality for most people. The difference is that some pretend better than others. Carl Jung, one of the greatest names in depth psychology, said that we are not what happens to us, but what we choose to become. And that's the real secret sauce right there. It is not about shielding yourself from the world. It is not about becoming cold, indifferent, or untouchable. It is about integrating. It is about bringing to light everything that currently affects you in the dark. Because true strength is not the absence of pain, but the full awareness of who you are, even when you are bleeding. If you have made it this far, it is not by chance. This message is for you who are tired of being hurt by everything and everyone. It is for you who feel that you are always at an emotional disadvantage, as if other people have a power over you that you do not understand. I want to show you that it does not have to be this way. But for that, you will have to face some truths that may hurt. And perhaps for the first time, this pain will set you free. Let us begin. You believe that what hurts you is out there, in the actions of others, in poorly chosen words, in the abandonments you have suffered, in the betrayals you did not expect. But the truth is brutal. None of this truly has the power to hurt you unless there is already an open wound inside you. What hurts you is not what others do to you. It is what these experiences activate within you. It is the story you tell yourself about it. It is the old trauma that has never been addressed. It is the emptiness you disguise with strength, with pride, with that desperate need to seem well-adjusted. Jung shows us that the pain we feel in the face of the external world is merely a reflection of what has not yet been integrated into our internal world. That is why some people can go through devastating situations and still maintain clarity, while others crumble in the face of a simple comment. It is not about what happens. It is about where it impacts you. And here comes an uncomfortable truth. You still suffer so much because on some level you believe you can control how the world should treat you. You are still trying to be good enough, smart enough, strong enough, understanding enough, as if that guarantees that no one will hurt you. But control is an illusion. And as long as you cling to it, you live in constant tension, trying to predict the unpredictable, trying to avoid the inevitable. Do you want to stop suffering? Then stop protecting yourself from suffering. What you need is not more control, but more awareness. As long as you believe other people need to change for you to feel okay, you're basically letting them run your life. Your freedom begins the moment you understand that everything that comes from outside only has power if it finds an echo within you. And this is exactly where the true battlefield lies. The unconscious, what you do not see, do not get, and do not master, masters you. And that's what we're digging into next. Get ready to go deeper, because that's where the real change happens. If this content is clicking for you, hit that subscribe button. Thanks for the support. The biggest fib you've ever bought into? That you're actually in the driver's seat of your own life. Wake up, because you're not. At least not while you're running on autopilot, reacting without knowing why, feeling stuff without understanding where it's coming from, making choices you end up screwing up later. Carl Jung nailed it when he said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And that's exactly what's playing out for you right now. That pain you feel, the anger that blows up out of the blue, the sadness that just washes over you for no reason. None of it is just random. They're signals, messages from the parts of you that you've pushed aside, ignored, or bottled up. Jung called this hidden territory the unconscious. And it's not just some fuzzy cloud of thoughts. It's a powerful force, a whole system packed with memories, old wounds, desires, and fears that you do not wish to face, but that continue to dictate what you feel and how you act. You wonder why some words just wreck you, while other people shrug them off, because those words poke at raw nerves inside you, spots that are still tender. And they're tender because you never actually faced them head on. You just swept them under the mental rug, and now you keep tripping over the lumps. Jung said, "We cannot change anything until we accept it. Condemnation does not liberate, it oppresses." And what have you been doing? Judging yourself, repressing yourself, silencing yourself as if that would resolve anything? The truth is that the unconscious does not disappear simply because you ignore it. It only finds more perilous ways to manifest. In toxic relationships that you repeat, in patterns of self-sabotage that you cannot break, in anxieties and fears that arise when everything seems to be going well. That's not bad luck. That's your unconscious trying to shake you awake, but you keep hitting the snooze button. Want to be someone who doesn't get hurt anymore? Then stop running from what's inside you. Because as long as you don't know your own unconscious stuff, you're just a puppet pulled by your emotional strings. And the harder you try to shield yourself from outside pain, the more wide open you are to the pain bubbling up from within. But there is a way out. And it's not about building higher walls, it's about bringing all the pieces of yourself together. Because becoming untouchable isn't about blocking things out, it's about deeply knowing yourself. We'll get into that next. What does it really mean to be unshakable, and why does that kind of strength come not from armor but from acceptance? Let's keep going. Most people think the only way to stop getting hurt is to shut down. They build walls, put on masks, develop this kind of emotional armor, and pretend like nothing gets to them. They say stuff like, "I don't care anymore," or "whatever, doesn't bother me." But inside, they're still hurting, still feeling eaten up, because the problem was never feeling things. The problem is not knowing what you're feeling or why. And that only happens when you don't really know yourself. Jung was precise when he stated, "Know all the theories, master all the techniques, but when touching a human soul, be just another human soul." And that human soul, the one you insist on hiding behind a strong, invulnerable, controlled character, is screaming to be seen. Becoming emotionally strong has nothing to do with being cold. It has nothing to do with ignoring pain, avoiding conflict, or pretending not to care. It has to do with integrating, with accepting, with bringing to light everything you have buried in the dark. You do not become untouchable by creating a barrier between yourself and the world. You become untouchable when you realize that no one can touch what has already been embraced within you. When you integrate your shadows, your fears, your flaws, your insecurities, you stop reacting to everything. You observe, you choose. You are no longer an emotional puppet. And that is true freedom. Jung called this process individuation, becoming who you truly are. Not who others want you to be, not who you thought you had to be to get accepted, But the person who emerges from inside when your light and dark sides, your conscious self and your unconscious depths, finally meet. Individuation, Jung said, isn't about becoming perfect, it's about becoming whole. You don't need to be a better person, you just need to be a complete person. And here's the secret nobody tells you. The more you run from pain, the faster it chases you. The more you try not to be affected, the more fragile you actually become. But when you face your own wounds head on, when you accept all of who you are, the good, the bad, the noble, the stuff you're ashamed of, then nothing on the outside has the power to break you. But getting there takes guts, courage to look inside, courage to drop the masks, courage to actually feel, because believe it or not, hidden inside that pain is the key to transforming yourself. And that's what we'll dig into next. How suffering, far from being your enemy, can actually be the doorway to your true strength. Let's go deeper, and this time without fear. You learned to dislike pain since you were young. You were taught that suffering is a sign of weakness, that crying is unproductive, that feeling too much makes you vulnerable. And so you began to run, to avoid, to deny. But the more you flee from suffering, the more it pursues you, and the worst part, it changes form. It disguises itself as anxiety, anger, apathy, boredom, self-destructive impulses that you do not even understand the origin of. Ignored pain does not disappear, it just digs tunnels inside you until one day, without warning, everything collapses. Jung viewed suffering in a completely different way. He believed that pain was the messenger of the soul, the alarm of the unconscious, the language that the self, what you are in your entirety, uses to get your attention. He said, "Depression is like a lady in black. If she appears, don't push her away. Invite her to sit down, offer her coffee, and listen to what she has to say. But you do not listen. You silence yourself, distract yourself, keep yourself busy, numb yourself. You do everything to avoid looking at what truly matters." What is this pain trying to show you? The hard truth is, suffering only hurts this much because you're still fighting yourself. There's a part of you wanting to grow and change, and another part desperately trying to keep things exactly the same. Something inside you is yelling for a transformation, but your ego, that part of you used to being in charge, tries to smother that call. And that friction, that internal tug of war, that's where the pain comes from. Because let's be real, change hurts, growth hurts. Letting go of old ways of thinking, cutting ties with toxic people, allowing parts of your life that aren't working anymore to just die off. All of that feels like a loss, like an internal process of ending and beginning again. But it's right there in the rubble that something new can actually sprout. Because when everything you thought you knew gets torn down, when your certainties crumble, when pain strips you bare, you can finally see who you really are without all the protective layers, the performance, the masks. And at that exact point, suffering becomes sacred because it brings you to your knees before the only thing that can set you free, yourself. Jung knew this. He understood that suffering is not a failure of the system, it is part of the process. Pain is not the end of the road, it is the beginning of the journey towards individuation. The problem is that most people give up before crossing that dark valley. They flee, they distract themselves, they return to the surface. But not you. If you have made it this far, it is because you are ready to cross. And in the next part, we will understand how this crossing process happens, how the path of individuation, no matter how lonely and challenging it may seem, is what finally sets you free. Let us continue. It is becoming deeper now. Now few people possess the courage to begin the journey of individuation, and even fewer have the courage to complete it. Because this path does not promise comfort, does not offer guarantees. does not protect your ego, it dismantles it. Jung referred to individuation as a process of becoming who you are, but this means above all unlearning what you think you are. And that hurts more than any external rejection, because you start to realize that much of what defined you until now was an illusion. You are not your achievements. You are not your traumas. You are not the image you constructed to be loved, respected, or admired. All of this was what you created to survive. But surviving is not living. And individuation is life's call beyond survival. It is when the unconscious begins to push everything that has been repressed, hidden, and distorted to the surface. Individuation requires the dissolution of the persona, Jung wrote, for it is merely a mask of collective convenience. In other words, you will need to shed your own skin to discover what lies beneath. It is in this process that you begin to become untouchable, not because nothing affects you anymore, but because you have already gone through the fire. You have faced your inner challenges. You have looked into the eyes of your shame, your neediness, your anger, and acknowledged them without letting them control you. It is this internal clarity, this lucidity in the face of your own darkness, that grants you a strength independent of approval, recognition, or control. You no longer need to be loved by everyone. You no longer need to win every argument. You no longer need to appear strong, because you know who you are and no one can take that away from you. True emotional resilience is not a shell, it is a core. It is the integration of all your parts into a center of consciousness that remains unshaken amidst storms. You may feel pain, but it does not break you. You may be hurt, but you do not lose yourself, because you have stopped being merely reactive and have become whole. You have stopped living solely on the surface and have begun to inhabit the depths. However, this depth comes at a price: loneliness, not because you will necessarily be alone, but because few people can accompany you on this journey. Most remain trapped on the surface, in masks, in the fear of feeling. And when you begin to free yourself, you inevitably distance yourself. But this distancing is not rejection, it is maturation. You do not distance yourself out of pride. You distance yourself because you no longer fit where you once hid. And this brings us to the final point of this journey: consciousness as a shield, because it is not strength that protects you, it is clarity. This is what we will discuss in the last part. Consciousness as the only state in which nothing, absolutely nothing, has ultimate power over you. Let us finish this crossing together. We are almost there. Now that you have made it this far, there is something that needs to be stated very clearly. Nothing, absolutely nothing, will shield you from external suffering if you remain unconscious of what happens within you. The words will continue to hurt. The rejections will continue to sting. The losses will keep bringing you down until you awaken. And awakening is not a magical event, it is a daily choice. It is looking within even when it hurts. It is taking responsibility for everything you feel without blaming others, the past, or fate anymore. Carl Jung said, "What you resist persists. What you accept transforms." Think about it. You've spent your whole life fighting that fear of not being good enough, that empty feeling after being rejected, the ache of loneliness, the frustration of not feeling understood. And what did? You hid. You shut up. You tried to control everything and everyone. You tried to be perfect. You tried to be tough. And where did all that effort land you? Right here, exhausted, tired of battling the world and yourself. But now you know the secret. Real emotional immunity isn't about being hard. It's about being clear. It's not about building armor. It's about expanding your awareness. Because when you truly understand your own triggers, your patterns, your old wounds, what other people do or say loses its power to destroy you. You'll still feel things, but you won't drown in them. You'll still experience pain, but you won't lose yourself in it. And that changes the entire game. What truly protects you isn't walling yourself off from life. It's diving headfirst into it, fully awake, fully aware. It's knowing yourself so deeply that nothing external can truly shake your core. That's the real strength. That's how nothing and nobody will ever truly hurt you again. Not in the way that breaks you. You've got this. It is diving into it deeply. Those who live on the surface get hurt by any wave. Those who dive know that there is silence, stability, and power down below, and that is where you're headed. And when you start to live from that place of integration, presence, acceptance, the world may try to knock you down, but it no longer finds where to hit you. If this video touched you in some way, if something within you has awakened, right here in the comments, I choose awareness. Let's start a movement of people who no longer want to survive by pretending to be strong, but to live with truth. And don't forget, the next video is also part of this journey. It's important. You need to keep going. Real transformation only begins when you don't stop at the first step. See you there.